Hi everyone, David here from daviddumaisaudio.com, and in this video I want to go over all the music I created for the Clash Mutant vs. Pirates video game trailer. So if you haven't checked out the game yet, or you haven't seen the trailer, it's actually a free-to-play game that's on Steam. It's going to be available, should be available around mid-June. I'm not sure what the release date is yet. It might be pushed a bit further back, I'm not sure, at the time of recording this. But if you haven't checked it out, go on Steam, you can add it to your wish list. And yeah, if you haven't seen the trailer, no worries. I'm going to actually play it right now in this video before we dive in and actually start breaking down all the music and how I created everything. So why don't we just jump right in? I'll play through the trailer right now.
Shall survive.
All right, so that is the trailer right there. So I did the music and the sound design for this trailer. I'm not sure which video I'm going to put out first. This video is going to be all about the music. I've also done a video all about the sound design, so keep an eye out for that. And if it's already out, then I'll put a link in the description. And yeah, so this video game, Clash Mutant vs. Pirates, I actually had the privilege to work on this game. I did a bit of sound design and a bit of music for the game. And now this is the first trailer that's come out for this game. So why don't we kind of just go through each section one at a time, and I'll kind of talk about like how I created the music for this, how I approached it, and yeah, then we can kind of break it down. Whoops. There we go. All right, so the way that I first approached the trailer here, so of course they sent me, the developer sent me this, the trailer here, and there's of course no music, no audio, no nothing. They had this audio track for the trailer, but it was more just to get kind of a feel or a mood for what they were going for. But it didn't have anything else. I think they had like a few sound design elements, like the breathing here when Nash is breathing, and then they had this scream here from Nash, the character Nash, because that's actually part of the game. So they sent those to me, and they had that in the file here. But apart from that, there wasn't much. It's just kind of mood music. So how did I start? So I started by looking just with the beginning. My approach was to start with the opening here, and then I went straight to the end because I wanted both the opening and the end to really fit together and to really wrap up. I guess I wanted to kind of tell a story, basically. So you start, you kind of get this opening of the characters and kind of what you don't know what's going to happen, and then at the end you kind of get this, again, the same thing. You kind of don't know what's going to happen. There's kind of this battle between the two characters, but yeah. So I kind of wanted to tell the story and kind of and I wanted to make sure that whatever happened in the opening was kind of brought together in the end. So the way I started was with a lot of trailer hits. So if you look here, So just for the logos, all I used were basically Brahms. Right, and I used the exact same Brahm for the second logo here. I think for this one, I might have pitched it down a bit, maybe. Yeah, I think I pitched it down a bit, this one, so that it was different from the first. So I have the track frozen, but if I unfreeze it, then I can go in here. Yeah, so you can see I brought the format down by 2 so that the second time that the logo plays, it's a little bit different. So you don't get the exact same sound twice in a row. And by the way, these sounds are actually freebies. These, if you go to Keep Forest, I think it's keepforest.com, but they have on their website, they have freebies for some of their products, just so you can kind of sample their products and have an idea or a feel of what they create. And the company really focuses on trailer music, and they're just awesome. They're really, really good, and I highly recommend them. Yeah, and that's where I got these two, this Brahm hit here, the Brahm to open up the trailer. It was from that website and to get those freebies. So I actually layered them, if you can see here. Just the hit by itself, I thought it was good. But I wanted something else at the beginning just to kind of introduce it and kind of have a whoosh to go into the Brahm. And this is very common whenever you're creating Brahms or something, or you want to add more intensity. You'll usually lead by a whoosh, and you'll see I did that down here as well. So let's have a listen to this. Right? So now together, I just add a lot more intensity and interest right at the beginning, especially because right here, you don't actually see anything in the trailer, or you just start to see, but you really don't see anything until the Brahm hits, and that's where you start to actually see enough of the logo to know like what's happening. So that's kind of what this whoosh is doing as well. Right, just so you have an idea of kind of the tension that it can build, and just adding more impact and intensity to that Brahm. All right, so the same thing I did down here, I added this whoosh. So that's a whoosh hit. And if you look here, I also added track spacer. And the reason for that is because, so I added track spacer on the whoosh hit down here, on this one here, so that whenever this Brahm comes in, so right at this point right here, it'll duck the signal of the whoosh hit, because I want the Brahm to be at the forefront of the sound, not the whoosh hit. So if you look at what's happening on track spacer, you'll see that the signal of the whoosh hit is going to be ducked. And this is also another trick that you can do whenever you're trying to add intensity to hits and Brahms, is to use this. I mean, this is kind of like a compressor. I'm using this plugin as a compressor to drop the signal of the whoosh hit, and like I said, it's a common practice, because then you get a bigger hit, or it feels more intense. So if I take that off, let's hear what that sounds like. Right, so you get the bigger sound, but if I put it in, right, you get more of this Brahm sound. If I take it off again, right, it could work, but I really wanted to keep that same character as the opening Brahm that I had. So that's why I put that in there. And I wanted to make it a little bit different again. So I made it the second Brahm different by pitching it down to, but I also added a bass drop. So this is the other layer I added. Right, so with all three together now. And the other purpose of this bass drop is to kind of stretch out the sound all the way till the logo here kind of disappears. Right, because I found the Brahm here kind of faded out a bit too quick, too soon. So I wanted something else to kind of stretch it out and keep it going, and that's what this bass drop is doing. So now if we play all these together, this is basically the opening. Right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go on to the second section here. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the second section here is pretty simple. It's just this Omnisphere patch. Let me see if I can unsolo that. Geez, which one is it? Let's just unfreeze them all. There you go. All right. So it's this patch here. Which I'm pretty sure this is just a preset. So I just went in here, typed in pluck or bass or something like that, or bass pluck, and then I found this. And this is just really adding intensity to the scene because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't even know what this thing is, this blob of water or blood or whatever it is. I mean, we end up realizing that it's blood, but you don't actually know when the scene kind of opens. So this kind of adds this kind of element of uncertainty or like, yeah, just setting the mood and adding intensity. And you'll see here, these are just triplets, by the way. So that is what is happening there. I also added, let's see here, choir. This is Mercury Boys Choir. It's just a sustained ah. And the reason I use this is not only to kind of balance out that low bass that I had in Omnisphere there. It's not just to balance that out, but it's also because I use this patch and this instrument in a few of the other tracks that I created for this video game. So I knew this would be kind of a tying element from the trailer to the actual game. So if we listen to them together. Right, so this kind of adds a mystery, kind of makes the mood mysterious because you don't know what's going to happen. Even once you see the character here, you still don't know what's going to happen. So I'm kind of trying to build a bit of intensity and mystery here. And I did that by adding, let's see if I can unfreeze this here. In the choir. Here we go. Yeah, so like I said, Mercury Boys, vowel sustains, just Oz. And I added a bit of intensity just by adding like a minor second right at the end there. So the A to the C, or sorry, the A to the F. Right, so here you kind of have this augmented fifth, which is a weird interval. And then here you would expect to have the resolution, which would be your fifth, a perfect fifth. But then I kept this other note in there. That's what's adding the intensity. So you have this dissonance. And let's see what other elements are at play here. So we got that. Oh yeah, so I layered this sound up here with a pad. And this is just to kind of fill out the frequencies and just fill out the sound. So let me see if I can actually unfreeze that. What is this here? So this is from Vocalise, from Heaviosity. So I just picked a preset here that was kind of, I wanted something kind of ethereal that could match the sound of the choir up here. right? So you notice it when it's not there, and when it's there, it's very subtle. Right? So now all together with the bass here. And of course, we have some elements like I wanted to add a few hits, specifically for the blood drop. I wanted a hit right there. So that's what I did there. So let's have a listen to that. Right, so this is just matching the picture. So this was an important part in the trailer, so I wanted to match that. And then, of course, we get into this next section here, which is where we kind of realize what's happening and what's going on. And so I wanted to have a big hit here, and then again, another Brahms, so that's what I did. And from this point, I think I pretty much switched entirely to percussion. So if I take off the percussion, I don't think there's many elements playing here. So let me just unfreeze it so we can actually hear it. So I'll unfreeze the percussion, unfreeze, and also the strings. Bam. So if I mute just the percussion, yeah, there's nothing going on. And you'll see here in the strings, I actually have this omnisphere patch here. And these are just like bass plucks again. So if I just solo that. And this I put in to match the percussion. So let's listen to the percussion here. And I just used, let's see what we got here that I use. So some damage, a bit of Ambient 1, and some, what is this, Sound Irons, Apocalyptic Percussion. So basically I wanted to have a combination of like big drums. So that's what Armageddon is doing. And I wanted some ethnic wood kind of timbre to the sound. So that's what these are doing down here, the ethnic drums. So these are the big drums. So this is Spitfire and Damage. By the way, Spitfire is just Albion 1. I think that's what it is. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe I'm just using Sound Irons Apocalyptic Percussion here. And anyways, the point is I was going for the big drums first. And then I wanted to add this timbre. And you'll see it kind of speeds up, and the rhythm also speeds up towards the end. That again is just to add more intensity to the scene. Right, so that's kind of a tip right there. If you're trying to add intensity to a scene, is to kind of speed up a rhythm that you have going. So you can see here, I basically copied and pasted here. But so you have this rhythm, da 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 da, right? And then at the end, I changed up the rhythm by playing all the way through. And making, of course, I increased the velocity as well to make it more intense. And then here for the bass plucks, I just wanted to have something that was a bit more. I wanted to have a different timbre to the sound, something more, I guess, electronic, but not so obviously, and just a lot bassier. So you can hear like this sound is really percussion. It's very percussion-esque. And that's what I was going for. Something that's still, it's I guess it's a synth sound or like some sort of digital sound, but it's not, it sounds very like it could fit as part of a drum ensemble. All right, so let's kind of mute these and then we'll go to the other elements that are part of this scene here. Right, so I have, of course, the Brahms here. And again, these Brahms are actually from Keep Forest. These are their part of their free pack. So if you check out keepforest.com and go to their free section, yeah, that's where I found these. So they're really awesome. And I don't even think I like changed anything as part of these. They're just Brahms. Right, Brahms and a few hits. And you'll notice here what I did in the tempo. If you look at the tempo markings up here, and by the way, the tempo marking was really important for the trailer up here. So if we go and have a look, the trailers, yeah, if you look at the tempo marking, it's all over the place. And there's a good reason for that. It's because I was really trying to match the picture with what I was, with the music and what I was creating here. So if you look here, so before I even kind of wrote anything, before I even started writing any notes of music or putting anything down in my DAW here, what I would do is I would kind of like tap on my metronome the tempo that I wanted so that I could get a feel for the scene. And once I had a feel for the scene, then I kind of started having melodic ideas in my mind, and that's when I started to write them down. So, but before I even wrote down anything, I really had to know what the tempo was going to be. So once I knew what the tempo was going to be, then I could put it down here so that I knew what the flow of the scene would be like, and then I could put the music to that. Because if I just started writing music and then I would try to switch the tempo around, it wouldn't really work because the music wouldn't match anymore, right? So yeah, that's kind of a tip whenever you're writing trailer music, is really try to match the scene. At least for this type of trailer, that's what I was trying to do. And you'll see another thing I did here for adding intensity is I sped up the tempo up here. So for this whole scene where you suddenly see Blaze, this is Blaze, the crocodile guy. So when Blaze appears, for this whole scene, you suddenly become tense because you realize what's happening. And I speed up the tempo right from the beginning where that scene switches, right to the end where the slash happens to add intensity. So the tempo keeps on rising and rising and rising. Yep. One thing that worked really well is, again, for matching the visuals, is as he throws up his sword, right here is the downbeat, right where the sword hits the max, its upper port, like the highest peak that it gets thrown. And right there, I also added like a hit, right? You have that second Brahm here, which really matches the visuals again. So yeah, so if that didn't line up perfectly, I would probably play a bit with the tempo just to make it line up, just because it's really effective. Right? So this, for me, this was the opening from the beginning here all the way to the slash. This is the opening section that I worked on first, and I wanted to make sure that was down like super well before I moved on to anything else, because I knew that this would set up the feel and the scene and the emotion for the rest of the trailer. So once I had that done, like I said at the beginning of this video, I went straight to the end because I knew the end was going to be the next most important part. So I worked in chunks, and I don't always work in chunks like this. I mean, you can. Yeah, it just, I don't know. I guess it depends on the project, but for this project, it's something that I wanted to do and I wanted to try, especially because I wanted to make sure that the trailer had a really great beginning and a really great ending. Anyway, so this part here, right after the screen, Nash's scream, is what I considered the end. So let's have a listen. And what's actually interesting for the Nash screen here is that you can hear it has a really bassy note in it. Because if you take it out, you'll notice it just goes straight into the music. But if you listen to the Nash screen, you'll hear a bass note. I'm pretty sure it's tuned to a D, because I wrote the entire trailer in the key of D. And if you listen, so I'll play it again. And if you listen to the Nash screen and listen to that bass note, and you'll see that it blends directly into the music, which is in the same key, which works out really, really well. Right, so that's something that I kind of did, kind of unconsciously, but it ended up working pretty well. All right, so what did we do for this scene? So this scene I kind of took and created kind of the same way I did at the beginning. So before I even wrote down anything, I really wanted to have the feel for this scene. So I really like played it out in my head how I wanted the tempo to be, and before I even wrote down anything. So I really had that rhythm in my head. It was dun 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 dun. And I had those 2 hits right there, or those 3 hits. Da, da, da. Like that I had in my head before I even wrote down anything. Right? So as soon as once I had that kind of tempo and that kind of percussive feel that I wanted for the scene, this is when I started that's what I started with to create the scene. So the first thing I probably did was to create this here. And again, this is another Omnisphere patch, and it's just a low bass to add intensity, just like at the beginning with this displace plug patch. I'm doing the exact same thing, or a very similar thing here. Right, it's just to keep that intensity flowing through to the end of the scene. Right, so once I had that, then I started doing this part, which is right again trailer hits from Keep Forest, and they just work really well because they're just really in your face. And actually, before I even did that, I think what I did was the percussion part just to get the rhythm down. Right? Okay, so yeah, so that's what I did. So I did the percussion part. Here, let me scroll this down a bit. Okay. Da, da, da. Yeah. So I had Omnisphere going. But as you can tell, it's kind of weak. It's missing a lot of energy. But this is what I started with, just to get the feel for the scene. Right? So once I had this laid out, just so I had my ideas out as soon as possible. And that's another thing I should say. Like I when I started working on this scene and I had the basic idea down, I really wanted to write it down as fast as possible, just so I can keep my ideas alive. Because I find if I wait too long and I don't write it out right away, like I'll start losing ideas and I'll start maybe not remembering exactly what I wanted. So I kind of drafted out and just put out a skeleton, even if it's not perfect. So as you can hear, this is really not perfect. Like it really loses. It doesn't have a lot or enough intensity. And actually, I didn't even have these plugins in when I first started, so it probably sounded a bit more like this, which is okay. Right, so that's what I started with. Now, once I had that, then I knew I could work around that. So the next thing I knew I wanted to do is kind of build intensity and tension all the way up to the end. So I created 2 risers. So this is the first one here, and this is Rise and Hit. By Native Instruments and another company. I forget their name right now. Anyways, Rise and Hit. So if you look at actually what I did here for Rise and Hit, I didn't want to just have it play. I wanted to print it out because then I also wanted to add intensity by chopping it up. So let's have a listen to this. Maybe I'll play it with. Let's play it like that first. So you can't hear too much because of the percussion, but if you play it, it's actually playing. The way I cut it is so that it plays with the percussion. Right, and this is another tip or trick that you can use whenever you're building tension or trailers. Whenever you're trying to build up to a point of tension or a point of climax, is to add these kind of glitches. Add these glitches to your riser. Right, so that's what I did here, and basically I'm playing along with the percussion. So if I add a bit of volume to this, let's add some gain here, just so you could hear it a bit better. Right, so that's what it's doing there. And then once I had that, I also wanted to add. I thought it wasn't enough. It's a very kind of higher frequency, higher pitch riser, so I added this other riser. And this one I actually tried chopping it up just like I did the first one, but I thought it didn't work as well. It really didn't work. So that's why I kept it just as one riser all the way through. Right, so once I had these basic ideas down for building tension, then it was just a matter of filling it in and making it more intense. And that's where these hits and punches come in. So I added the trailer hits from Keep Forest, so that sounds like this now. Right, so a lot more intense, and you lose that entire sound of the percussion at the hat a bit higher up. So my computer stops freezing here. There you go. So you don't even hear these percussion anymore. Like with these trailer hits, you don't even hear like Armageddon or apocalyptic percussion. They're just there as layers now. So if I take it off, I wonder if it'll make a difference. Yeah, I think it makes a difference. Like you lose the depth of sound. So it suddenly becomes a layer, and it's not so much what's at the forefront of the sound. It's more of a, how do you explain it? Like it's more of an ambient sound, a layer. It adds more depth to the sound, like it's in a bigger room. While the hits, they really just punch you in the face. That's kind of how I would explain it. And what else did I add here afterwards? I added these hits here. So these hits, they kind of go with this Omnisphere bass patch here. And it's just to keep that scene chugging along, basically, and to add that intensity on every single beat. And if you heard that and you had really good ears and could catch it, I was actually using a bit of ducking. So on the Omnisphere bass plugs down here, I'm actually ducking this signal, the bass, the plugs. I'm ducking them with these hits so that you get this pumping effect. So if I just play that, let's see if I can just play that. So it'll be here and here. Right, so you get this really cool pumping effect, and that's what I was going for with these two kind of interactions. I really wanted the bass synth and the punches and the hits to really kind of interact in this way. Yeah, so that's what I did there. And let's see what else I did. Oh yeah, so for the brass, I added a bit of brass here to add a bit more tension and climax. This is to go along with the Brahms. Right, so if we look at this, it's not going to let us look. But yeah, you can hear it's just basically building, and it's like a Brahms, but I'm just using low brass instruments to create it. And it's mimicking these down here that I also used. These are also low Brahms from Keep Forest. Right, so again, this is kind of layering. So what I'm doing here is I'm layering these super low frequency Brahms, which sound good on their own, but they don't have that clarity or that punch and power and aggression that it needs from the higher frequencies, and that's why I added these brass here. They just go really well together because they're both occupying different frequency ranges. So that's what's happening there. And then, of course, I added a bit of low strings as well. And the point of that was to match Omnisphere down here. So if I put it together. Again, it's just to add a bit of space, and that's what these are doing over here. So just again, layering different instruments that are doing similar things together to create a bit more space and a bit more depth in the sound. So if I play it all together now, everything, all the elements. And of course, at the end here, I just had a final big hit just for that closing screen there. And that's what that is. Right? So that's how I created this, this closing, this ending for the trailer. Yeah, it's pretty simple-ish, I guess. And so, yeah, once I had the opening and the beginning done, I think the next part that I created and that I moved to was this section here. So I thought the opening was the most important, the ending was the most important. I don't know if I would pick an order to those two. They're kind of both as important. But for sure, the next most important part for me was this section right here. Because this is when you suddenly have the introduction of the characters and the tension, and you kind of have that interaction with all the characters in the game. So I knew this was going to be the next most important part. So this is the next place that I went to work on the trailer. So let's have a listen to this and see what we did.
None shall survive.
So I think you're going to see some very similar elements to and strategies or effects that I created similar to the ending to build that tension. So let's have a look. So yeah, I think we'll have a similar orchestration as well. Let's see here. So first thing is the Omnisphere again. I have a bass playing here. Right here. And these are the same plugs from the beginning, but this time I added a lot more grit to them by adding Isotope here. This is Trash by Isotope, which is a distortion unit. So a distortion plugin. Right, it just adds a lot more grit to the sound. And part of the reason I included that there, that the trash, is because if not, then this sound would be like completely drowned from the rest of whatever's going on. So all the hits and the Brahms and the brass, you wouldn't even hear it. Yeah. So if I play it, and I mute it, you barely hear it.
None shall survive.
But when I put that in, suddenly it adds more stereo width, and you really hear the grit of it. So again, so what else is going on here? So that's the first thing. This is kind of like me setting up the foundation for this section here, right here. And then what else? What other elements did I have? So of course, again, the brass. So instead of doing like low Brahms for the brass, for this is from, let's see if I can freeze it here. This is from Metropolis Arc 1. And I have horns, bass trombone, and tubas. So if I go in here, where is that, number 10? Yeah, right here. So again, these are clusters. So they are crescendo clusters. So this is another great way to build tension is having brass clusters or what is it called? I forget what the technique is called. Flutter tonguing. I think it's flutter tonguing. So when brass is flutter tonguing like that, you get a lot more intensity to the sound. And the fact that they're crescendoing also makes it that much better. So that's what's happening here. What else do I have that's going on? Yeah, so you have the brass. You have the Omnisphere patch here, and I had some things going on here, some Brahms. There you go. Yeah. So a few hits exactly when the door opens. That's the first hit. And then I had another one right around where you see the next characters, and then another one right where you see the other shot for the next character. So if you look here, you'll see every time the camera changes to the characters, you get another hit. Now it's not perfectly matched, and that's okay. The one thing I really wanted to make sure was in time with the picture here was this first Brahm hit down here, right when the door drops. The next one wasn't as important as long as it's like close to whenever the camera changes. And then of course this next one, same idea. It didn't have to be exactly where when the camera changes, but it's pretty darn close and it works well. And yeah, so that's that. So once we change scenes here, I added this element, which is these are called trailer percussions. Again, this is from Keep Forest, and this is one of their trailer drum loops that they had, and it actually fit perfectly because my tempo here is at 90, and so is this drum loop, so it worked perfectly for the scene. So that's what that is there. And then I also added a riser to make it through to the end of this section. So for me, the end of this section it's actually measured 29 here, and as you can see, like it's pretty darn close to in sync with the video. And if you look at what's happening with the tempo marking, so from here, from measure 25 to measure 28, the tempo is very consistent. It's always at 90. And then from 28 to 29, I had to change it a bit because I knew that from 29 to 32 here, I wanted to have a fast tempo for the battle whenever they face off. So for here, so from here to here, it's at 90, and then I want it to drop a bit in intensity so that it can pick it back up right when they go off together. So I could have kept the intensity going here, but if I did that, this next section wouldn't be as intense. So because I stop at measure 28 with the intensity and I let all the sounds drop except for one riser that's kind of a pickup into measure 29, it really adds that much more intensity to this next section. So if we play it to have a listen.
None shall survive.
You see no sound right here. Right? There's no sound here. The only sound that you hear is this boom, and that's it. And then you hear that kind of resonate throughout this entire measure with the camera on the Blaze here, the character Blaze, the crocodile. Right? And then you have a pickup. What's here? I think this is from Rise and Hit. This is Rise and Hit. You have this kind of drop, and I added a tremolo to it just to add that kind of the tremolo sound, so it kind of vibrates, I guess. And it works really well because the tremolo is in time with the host with Cubase, right? So as the tempo slows down, so does the tremolo. So you get this kind of slowing down feel. And it's slowing down, and then suddenly you get this big hit right at 29, and then there's a lot, like the music just jumps up and is a lot faster. So if we have a list again.
None shall survive.
Yeah, sorry, the audio's cracking up a bit, and my system can't take it, but yeah, so you kind of get the idea though, like, you kind of get this consistent intensity all the way through the scene, and then right at 28, where you have the Blaze on the camera, everything stops. You just get a low boom, and it kind of resonates throughout the entire bar, the entire measure, while the camera's on him. And then you have this drop coming in, and it kind of slows down as the tempo slows down. And then as soon as 29 hits, you get this intensity, which is good. That's what I wanted, because in this next scene that I worked on, is all the characters going and facing off against each other. So let me see just here if I missed anything.
None shall survive.
Yeah, so just again, I have this riser here just to add intensity throughout this entire section from 25 to 28. I think that's pretty much it that's here. Like it's a pretty simple layout. Like there's a lot going on, but at the same time there's not, if that makes any sense. It's like just a few instruments, but it's really adding the intensity that the scene needs. And then of course I have a little whoosh hit as well here. Yeah. So that's what that is doing there. All right, so now for this next section, I went right into this next section here. I knew it was going to be from 29 all the way to 32 here, and this is where there's this kind of cutoff and where the screen whites out. So this was going to be my next intense section. So let's see what I did for this section. So my idea for this section is just to have a lot of fast playing rhythms, fast playing notes. And yeah, I just wanted everything to kind of move fast because you get all the characters running towards each other. So I wanted to have that speed. And the way I created that was with a lot of notes and a lot of rhythm. So let's break that down here. Once my computer goes, there we go. All right. So the first thing I started with were the strings, if I'm not mistaken. So let's have a listen to that. So they sound kind of thin to get like by themselves like this, but you'll see I added a lot more instruments and things. So all that's happening is I just have this rhythm that's being played and the strings. Oh, there's the basses. Where's violins? Right here. Right, and then it goes to a higher, it goes up an octave. Over here. Right, so I start low, and then I want to slowly move up, and then it ends on a really high note, this high point of climax and intensity. And yeah, so that's what I did here. Once I had that in place, then I added here. I added another layer. This is piano. This again, what you'll see what I'm doing here is just a bunch of layering. So layering piano. So strings and piano. And then I also added a flute down here. So if I can... Again, this is just to add a bit more articulation and a different character to the sound. So once I had that, I also added some more violins up here. So you'll see there's a solo violin. Right, this is to give it more of that string texture, that string sound. That's why I put that in there. And then I added another violin up here because I wanted to have it more... a bit more present. So it's just basically adding a bit more volume, really. And that's what's happening there. So if I remove these, what else is going on in here? So mute that, and I'll mute the flute. Mute these. All right, let's see what else is happening here. So what you can probably hear is you have this, the brass down here. And again, these are kind of like Brahms, but they're just the monster brass from Cinesamples right here. So I'm just playing really low notes. And they're basically acting as Brahms. So that's what's happening here. So that's adding intensity and keeping the intensity going throughout this entire scene. And they're getting louder and louder, as you can see here. Yeah. I'm just keep on adding. So I started with one, and then I added an octave, and then yeah, these last two notes is just the last two hits of the climax here to match the rest of the strings. So that's what that's doing there, and then I also have this going on. This is just to go along with the strings up here. Oops. strange. So if play it together. Right? And I'm trying not to do too much different like melodic ideas. I really want it to be kind of cohesive. So I have, of course, my string line, and that's kind of being what I'm doing is I'm playing it in octaves. I have my bass line that's doing this here. So that's my bass line. And then I have my violin line, and then I have this brass line that's going in, and it's kind of a counter melody to the string line. But I really didn't want to add too much complexity. I really want it to be a kind of a simple melodic idea here. So that's what I did here. So everything's kind of matching or very close in terms of musical ideas. So that's what's happening there. I'm not sure what this is. I might have a synth here that's playing. Yes, I do. Let's have a listen to this thing. So I have an Omnisphere patch here that's playing, again, layering. I'm just layering that melody line. And you'll see again, same thing here with the plex. And, oh yeah, right here, what's happening that's cool. So for the plex, I'm actually modulating the dry wet level. So as you can see, as it gets more and more intense, it gets a lot more wet. So it gets a lot grittier, a lot more aggressive. And this is a great tip if you're ever trying to add intensity or aggression to your track, is to modulate the dry wet of a distortion plugin. So that's what's happening there. So if we play it all together now, I think the last part is just the percussion, which is just playing along and mirroring kind of what the strings are doing. Again, I wanted really fast percussion, and that's what these are doing down here. And I wanted them to be a lot higher up in frequency just so they can really pop out. So that's what's happening here. So let's play everything together. And of course I have a riser here that's kind of gelling everything together and adding that extra intensity to the scene. And that's pretty much it for this scene. So once I had this scene done, so I had the kind of three most important sections done. Well, to me, these were the three most important sections: the opening, the ending, and then this middle section where the characters were kind of introduced and then we're facing off. And then once I had that done, I knew that then I could work on this ending section, and I wanted to combine and to kind of link this ending to the opening, obviously, because it's the exact same thing. So once I had that done, then I knew I could come in here and add the same layers and sounds to this scene. So you'll notice here I have the exact same thing going on. I have the choirs, I have my, not this one. I have a pad here from Vocalese by Heaviosity, exact same thing that I have at the beginning, so that I can have that exact same texture, that exact same sound, so that it can link the beginning to the ending here. Now, the only thing that's different is I'm playing different things. So I'm playing different notes. So what I'm doing here is I'm just building in intensity. Again, because now that we kind of know what's happening with this scene, we already know why Nash, the character here, is there. We know what's going to happen. So I'm just kind of building intensity up to that point where we see Blaze slashing her. So that's what I'm doing here. So you can see I'm just stepping up, step up, step up, step up, step up. And it's exactly what it is. It's one tone by another semitone, then another whole tone. And you can see here, this is all in D minor. So that's what I'm doing here. So D, E, F, G. So if we look at what else is going on. Of course, I have a big boom hit right here at the end, just to mark off the end of this section. Right? So let's hear from here. So I added also this other texture that actually wasn't at the beginning, which are these violins here. And these are, what are they doing here? Number 9. Let's see. Here we go. So these are playing harmonics. So if I play it by themselves. Right, so the reason these are here is just to, again, layer with what's going on. They're playing the exact same notes, if I'm not mistaken, D, E, F, G. And yeah, this is just the higher frequency, so they kind of layer on top of what the choir is doing. Right, so you can hear it when it's not there. Like if I play it with it there and then I take it off, you'll notice it's not, something's missing. It's very subtle, but it's just adding that extra touch to that sound right there. And then of course, to get these whooshes, these are just lining up to the picture. That's basically it there. If you want to know more about these, I talk about it in my sound design video on this trailer, so you can check that out. But that for this section, this is all that's happening here, right? Right, so it's pretty simple. It's just a kind of this ambient kind of sound that I wanted. And then once Nash, the character here, screams, I wanted that to be on its own. So if I mute this, there's actually nothing playing here. Right? So that's what's happening here. It's just this ambient texture, and then suddenly you know that something's going to happen, and then you get into the ending, which we already covered here. So once I had that done, I knew I had, this is pretty much the entire trailer almost. I just had this medium section, this middle section here to work on, right? And this is probably the section I had a bit more of a harder time working on because I just didn't know what to do or the kind of feeling that I wanted to have, because it's a bit more lax. This middle section here, it's a bit more lax. There's not much happening really. You know, you have like players playing cards. There's nothing too interesting in terms of gameplay, in terms of like characters or anything like that. Nothing new is being introduced except for this spaceship here. But yeah, like most of the sounds that you'll hear that are interesting in this section are mostly sound design. So I wanted to keep the music relatively simple while still feel like the trailer's moving forward, right? I didn't want the trailer to start feeling like kind of boring, so I had to have something that was moving. So the way I did that, of course, I kept these bass plucks. So if I take that out, you'll see this huge difference in the feel of the scene. Right? Suddenly you don't have that intensity or that you don't have the intensity or that feeling in your stomach like something's gonna happen or something bad is here, right? So you lose that sense of intensity to the scene. So this really helps a lot. Right, and then most of it is just strings. So I just wanted to have strings going, and these are basically just ostinatos just to get a rhythm going, and a rhythm that felt like it was moving forward. And you'll see here, I basically repeat these 4 bars twice, but and yeah, they're very similar. So it's just like a simple pattern going up and down. And then the 4th time it plays, I make it a little bit different. I go up by a tone. So, and then the last time it plays, again, it's all the same notes. I'm just switching them around to make it different and make it feel like it's moving. Right? So on this, this basically I just copied, pasted over here. And then to make it different and keep on making it interesting, I changed these last 6 notes here to G, F, E, F, E, C. But it's the same chord progression. So you can see here, this is D, and then this is, I think, is C major. So if I mute these two together, there's really not much going on here in terms of music. You have your horns. So let's have a listen to this. And these are just here to kind of like mimic or accompany this rhinoceros character here. And the spaceship that just came into play. Oops. Shouldn't be like that. So again, this is just to add an extra bit of tension. And again, it's not doing much. It's just D, F, G, right? So it's just playing along with the strings and just adding that extra bass line to move the scene forward and to make it, to introduce that spaceship, I guess. So if I put that all together, that's basically all that's happening musically. Yeah. The rest is kind of sound design. And yeah, that's it. That, like, really, the rest is just sound design. So it's very simple, very light texture. And I end it just like this. And the reason I ended it like this is just to make it kind of feel uncertain, like, oh, what's going to happen next? So you have da 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 da. And then there's nothing. And even musically, there's nothing. There's only, for this section here, I didn't want any music. All that's happening here is the ambience of the spaceship. And that's it. Right? So from that moment on, it's just all sound design. And that's it. So for this middle section, I really kept it simple. And yeah, it's just to keep the music and the intensity moving forward. That was the idea for this section. And that's basically, this is it. Like, the trailer is pretty much done. I think I went over every section like that. So I think that's everything. So yeah, you'll notice a lot of similar kind of strategies for building tension. A lot of, Brahms and the low brass and monster brass. And you'll notice clusters, also great for adding intensity. Again, a lot of low synth plucks. Right, I use that in almost every section here. And of course, you can't have a trailer without having a bunch of trailer hits and Brahms. So that's another thing that you'll see everywhere. But hopefully, just by kind of going through this video, you kind of have an idea. You can see how I created it, or my thought process behind how I created it and why I created it this way. Because usually, I don't know if everyone does this, but like usually I'll just start from the beginning of an idea and then I'll just write from the beginning to the end. So if this was just a piece of music or something, I'd start at the beginning and I'd just write all the way through to the end. But because this is a trailer, I really had to work in chunks, especially to make sure I had the important parts laid out and the foundations laid out that were the most important. And then I could kind of work around that. So, yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. That's just the way I did it. So hopefully you get something out of that. And you'll see that hopefully you'll notice that a lot of what I did was to match the visuals. And especially with the tempo, I matched the visuals a lot with the tempo. So you'll notice, again, if you remember in this section, is all consistent and then a lot faster here. So here's 90 beats per minute. Up here, I brought it up to 95. And yeah, and then you're back to the end here where it kind of slows down, but it gets more intense. And you'll remember this section here where I'm building intensity again by building up the tempo. So yeah, just tempo also plays a big part in writing trailer music like this. At least it did for this one. I don't have that much experience writing trailer music, mostly video game music, but yeah, you can see that I really played a lot with the tempo to make sure it was right and it fit with the picture. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it for this one. If you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments below. Let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, thanks so much for watching all the way through to the end. I know this is a really long one. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I normally say at the end. I think that's it. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the game yet, I'll put a link in the description for sure. Like I said, it's not available just yet, but you can add it to your wish list on Steam. It's a free-to-play game. It's a MOBA game, multiplayer online battle arena game. And yeah, it should be out sometime this year. Should be in June, but I actually have no idea their exact date yet. So yeah, that's it for now. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.